The brain is the epicenter of our existence. It houses our memories, fuels our passions, and drives every decision we make. Every thought, every dream, every action originates from this complex network of neurons. Yet, how often do we pause to consider its health? As time passes, stress, aging, and illness can silently erode the function of this precious organ. And traditionally, these changes have been hard to detect early, making intervention difficult and less effective.
When you look at the traditional methods, we've always just tried to look at the brain and guess what the brain was capable of doing. And what we're finding out is that with time, we're learning maybe 2-3% of what the brain's actually capable of doing. And every time we turn around, we learn something new. So as we've challenged the old ways of looking at the brain, we're starting to find out that there's ways to look at its function, not just its anatomical pieces, but how they interact with each other. And as we're starting to realize that the body doesn't work in a single pattern, but it's an interconnected system, we're starting to see how the impact of motherhood and having children impact the brain, how our health and what we eat impacts the brain, how our sleep cycles impact the brain. Everything starts to kind of interconnect and we start going, hey, the brain's actually more than just this thing that sits in our head.
BrainView marks a transformation in brain health management, providing critical insights that traditional methods often miss. Before BrainView, physicians relied on standard tools like EEGs, MRI scans, and basic cognitive screenings. And while these tests could identify major issues such as seizures or structural abnormalities, they often failed to detect the early, subtle changes in cognitive function and brain performance.
What we're able to capture is very minute electrocortical activity from the brain, which gives us the data for us to be able to project potential injury and damage that is occurring at real time, but also be able to extrapolate and predict potential injury and damage that will happen in the future from neurodegeneration. This is a tool that we haven't really had before that is now able to be performed in office, allows us to give information to patients that they can understand and plan for prevention of whatever is going on with their brain.
BrainView is a groundbreaking tool now used at over 1,000 to 2,000 physician practices across the country. This innovative system allows a comprehensive and objective cognitive evaluation in just 30 minutes through a simple, non-invasive test. BrainView assesses vital cognitive functions such as memory, attention, information processing, and executive functioning.
Neurologists, internal medicine physicians, and all kinds of other specialists can use BrainView because all these different specialists are looking for different cognitive decline in their patients, whether it's memory loss, anxiety, ADHD, or depression, or traumatic brain injury. All of those symptoms can be mapped by this brain mapping, and then it just brings all this value and extra information to their overall health. BrainView is a quantitative EEG that the patient works through some tasks, and we're measuring brain function. How fast or how slow does their brain working while they're reacting to sights, reacting to sounds, and then that data is gathered, and then we use QEEG and brain mapping to give them a report that's easy to read, to understand, to be able to see all these different biomarkers and how their brain is really functioning. An MRI or a CAT scan is really only going to show structural damage, where the BrainView really gives us more of a map to see what is going on with that patient. Using BrainView is especially important in these high-risk groups, such as athletes, first responders, and military personnel. These groups need to have baseline testing so that we can monitor what is happening in them with their cognitive health over time.
As an FDA-cleared medical device, BrainView empowers doctors to make informed, data-driven decisions, tailoring treatment plans to each individual. With enhanced QEEG-based brain mapping and AI-enhanced capabilities, BrainView continues to evolve, learning to detect subtle changes that might otherwise go unseen.
So I think our goal is always, how more proactive can we be? How quicker can we find a disease before it's past that treatment stage? And traditionally in my practice, we always started with, well, what does your blood say? What does your MRI say? And then as a neuropsychologist, I was able to go in and say, well, I can tell you how each part is working and maybe how they're kind of trying to interact. But now with BrainView, I can actually show that circuitry or how each part is working in unison at the same time. So if I put a load here, if I try a little bit of this, you can actually see those fluctuations in the processing.
Now we can actually get objective data to share with the patient and discuss plans of action, therapeutics to treat the problem, prevention techniques to prevent worse damage from occurring, and then you're getting a baseline that you can compare to at a subsequent interval, 6 months later, 1 year later, or 2 years later, so the patient can see the objective information, and every time they see the doctor, they can plan on treatments, they can plan on prevention.
BrainView not only identifies problems, but also helps guide the next steps in care. When conditions like Alzheimer's are caught early, doctors can develop treatment plans that slow disease progression, alleviate symptoms, and enhance quality of life. It empowers both physicians and patients with crucial insights to make well-informed decisions about their health.
It gives them an extra tool. It's an extension of their physical examination that they have, and allows them to get better communication with the patient. The information that is presented is quite vast, but it can be simplified for the patient, so that way they get an ownership of their disease and they get an ownership on prevention of disease progression.
They help you and they walk through the whole process. Nothing is done without your experience and knowledge before it happens. So the tech's able to sit with you, to show you how it goes about, and they make it as comfortable as possible compared to your traditional going to the hospital and just being left in a room to get an answer.
BrainView is not just a tool, it's a commitment to improving lives through better brain health. To learn more about how BrainView can transform your practice, visit BrainView.com and see the future of neurodiagnostics in action.